Hey, Next Levelers, Bob Gibbons, welcome to the Next Level Show. Glad you're with us. We have a very unusual show today. We have a return guest, Jason W. Taylor. He is the founder of Code Authority and also of CodeLaunch, which is a big event that just occurred yesterday. And so our show today is unusual in that, usually we have one company we're focused on, and we've had you as a guest, and you've been our guest in the past, about a month ago, I want to say. And today, though, we have like 4 companies represented in addition to Code Authority, so we'll call it 5. And all this is about is the show was a sponsor of CodeLaunch, which is a competition and technology incubator, accelerator. And so the competition occurred last night, and we have with us in the room today the finalists from that. So we're going to talk to each of them. I think we may be missing one of them, but out of 5, we got 4, so that's pretty good. And so we're going to start off, just Jason and I talking about what CodeLaunch is all about. And I know we've talked about this a little bit before, Jason, on the show, but give us the rundown again as to what is CodeLaunch and why did you start it?
Well, it's a one-day event that is the culmination of a kind of a unique model for a seed accelerator. It's for technology startups that need software development to create their product, which happens to be a vast amount of startups. So every app idea you've ever heard of, every business application, many of the Internet of Things, all sorts of new technology needs coders to make it real. And so the model at CodeLaunch is that we're going to curate from a national and international pool a handful of the best that there are. And then we're going to pair them with a software development team of professional coders from Code Authority and other partners like Improving, and hopefully in the future more local companies. So we pair them up with a team for 3 full days. And they race against the clock trying to build as much of the application product as possible. And then the next day they step onto stage and compete in front of an audience to see who's the winner.
And I'll tell you, it was a bigger deal than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I don't know what I had in my mind, but it wasn't that. I mean, it was multiples bigger than what I was expecting. So congrats. I mean,
I'm really glad to hear that.
You built something, and this is number 7. So
yeah,
you're doing this 7 years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. And so these people have to take off. If they're currently employed, they have to take off for several days, go through that whole hackathon with all those coders that you've set them up with to figure out what it is that how they're going to create this product to the extent that possible to prepare for that competition.
Yep. And, the reason that we created it is because in my 18 years as CEO of Code Authority, I've encountered many, many tech startups that made a terrible first step on their technology development. And by the time I met them, they were stuck in a bad situation, late product, angry investors, out of money, dispute with previous vendors, offshore argument, whatever it could be. And so I said, well, we got to be able to help these people if we can get to them early enough before they, fall off a cliff on step 1. So there's so many tech startups that are run by people that aren't necessarily technology people. And they know their space, they know their expertise, their business acumen is in a certain part of our economic landscape, and they just need someone to create the digital product that they need to launch and to exist. So that's what we do at CodeLaunch.
It's amazing that you do that because these people aren't paying for this. This is something they get for free. So this is a real cost to Code Authority. I mean, you had 2 of the 3 teams were employees of yours. So this is a major expense for your company, for Improving. They staffed a whole crew as well. So, I mean, you guys are really stepping up and put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, in doing this. And I'm glad you're doing it because I've had several people that have been guests on the show that got into some of those bad situations you're talking about. I remember one person told me that she was not a technology person. She didn't know how to do the coding. And so she hired a company and paid them up front in full, betting that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. Never heard from them again.
Yeah.
Just absconded with the money and
classic
the story.
pitfall. Yeah.
And other people, they tried, they went down the road, but it really just didn't work. And so then they had to start over again. So I'm thrilled that you guys are doing that and creating a forum in which people can do that.
Yeah, and it's kind of a passion of mine. I'm just a startup sort of guy. I love the startup space. I like startup energy. I like meeting new people and building new things, and that's why I created Code Authority to start with. And so, it costs us. We don't make any money producing CodeLaunch. Mm-hmm. We don't take anybody's equity up front. We don't charge the finalists a dime to apply or to even be on stage and win the event. Mm-hmm. But great partners like you and your show and other sponsors help offset some of the costs. And it's just it's very sustainable. We spend, it's not anything different than a marketing expense. That's a reasonable marketing expense.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why there shouldn't be code launches going on in every city in this nation. I don't really, honestly, it should be explosively popular. And I think it will be once one of these startups goes like a rocket.
Yeah, I believe that'll be the case because you speaking of national, you are national. I mean, you're international. So, again, you're based in Frisco, Texas, north of Dallas, but, you had people come from, Portugal. We'll talk to Ricardo here in a little while. So he comes from Portugal to come to this. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that surprised me about it. About 3-4 years ago, we started having people apply from nearly every major country on earth. Wow. And even some crazy countries that you would never think, like, Cameroon and places like that.
Really?
Yeah. And so I'm like, how did they find out about CodeLaunch? I mean, I didn't even know.
Probably a Google search, I'm guessing.
So we're really happy about that and the national interest, but the actual hackathon is a face-to-face thing. So that has to be local. So you can have a CodeLaunch, next month in Chicago and get international and nationwide applications. But once you have your finalists, you're going to pair with startup teams. They've got to be together. And that's the model at Code Authority, is that there's a lot of like virtual software development, people all over the place. And I know that's okay, but it's not as good as when you are working with a team and sitting there looking at them.
Right.
And they're looking at each other. And so that's why we do it that way. And it's important to us.
Okay. So you've had the competition now. Mm-hmm. You've identified a winner. And
the audience identified a winner.
Well, that is true. You're right. So let's talk about that real quick. So the people in the room, you had 4 judges, and the judges basically, I put that in air quotes, because they asked questions to clarify the message and the intent of the entrepreneurs. But ultimately, everybody in the audience texted their vote, mm-hmm. and that determined the winner. So has that always been that way?
No. So in fact, the CodeLaunch has changed a little bit in every single year of its 7-year history. And this is the first year we did the hackathons first.
Before the competition.
Yeah. And so that's been a huge success, and that's definitely going to stay that way.
So in the past, did only the winner got the hackathon?
To answer your question, the audience would vote, and we would give an award for audience favorite. And then the judges would choose, and we would give judges favorite. And then me and the other hackathon company would give away our hackathon, which would start the next day.
Okay.
Which is we realized is kind of a big error drop out of, you don't see what happened.
Right.
Why aren't we doing this first? So it was kind of a risky move on our part. We put our teams in a difficult spot because they know that whatever they get done, it's going to be put on stage and shown to people.
Right.
So they're kind of extra stressed out and trying really hard to make sure that's a success. But it's definitely what we're going to stick with.
And I like having the hackathon first because I agree the way you had the team or the leader of the team that did the hacking, the actual code guys, come up and actually help do the demonstration after the entrepreneurs did the introduction. I like that a lot. I would have been very interested, however, to have seen who the judges would have awarded the winner and to see if that's any different than the audience. I don't know that it would have been. I'm just curious if it would have been. So I would have liked to seen a judge's winner and then an audience winner, just out of curiosity.
That may be something that we bring back into the fold next year. But the whole end is really chaotic, trying to get everybody on stage, find out who the winner is, and then
I can see
time
that.
it with the confetti guns.
Those confetti guns were pretty awesome. They kept doing it after they did it the first time. They did 4 more times or 3 more times.
I think they had some extra stuck in there.
Somebody
they were
was
trying
having
to blow
a little fun. I loved it. So anyway, so you're now over for this year. When do you start planning for next year?
Well, I'll try to line up the hackathon software development teams and companies before the new year. I have a few targets to talk to. And then we'll take applications on March 1, 2020 for CodeLaunch 8.
So for the people that have gone through it now, what happens to them from now on? Do they have any ongoing relationship with Code Authority? Or
absolutely. So once you're a CodeLaunch finalist, you're in the CodeLaunch family forever. So I expect some of these groups will be back next year as an exhibitor, or they might, well, we have a tradition that the winner comes back next year as a judge panelist. So
I noticed that from last night.
Yeah, and so one of our winners from yesterday will come back next year, hopefully, and sit on our panel of judges and experienced entrepreneurs and ask the competitors questions. And so we definitely also hope that some of them will come back and say, hey, we want you to add more stuff to this code you built, and now we're willing to take an investor. So we have invested in startups quite a bit at CodeLaunch and Code Authority, and that's how we do it.
So they get the code, they get the hackathon, but from then on, then for them to have additional services, they need to either pay cash or give equity, one of the two.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and they should. I mean, at that point, especially if they're taking investors or whatever, I mean, you've given a lot already. So yeah, at that point, it should make sense for them to step up at that point. So I definitely want to be back next year. I enjoy doing this kind of thing. I've been a judge on a couple other like student entrepreneur events, and I'm always very interested in the ideas. It's really cool. So anyway, we're going to take a break. We will be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back. Bob Gibbons talking to Jason W. Taylor of Code Authority and the founder of CodeLaunch. And I understand, by the way, Jason, you had some news that occurred this week?
We've been working on it for about a year, but we were awarded a trademark for CodeLaunch the day before CodeLaunch this year. So.
Wow. That was just serendipitous or
no,
intentional?
It was intentional because we're trying to get some of our social media identities that other people kind of came along and squatted on, not doing anything with it. So we had to go get the trademark so that we have a right to do that.
Well, cool. All right. Well, I'm excited to introduce the winners of this year's CodeLaunch. The company's called 3G Strong, and Jamie Peden and Kelly Starnes are the founders. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
So give us the rundown. What is 3G Strong?
All right. 3G Strong. We create a program for elementary students. It's a series of stories where teachers can teach social and emotional skills, grit, growth mindset, and grace.
Grit, growth mindset, and grace.
We have some really fun, relatable characters that kids really can identify with. Our characters have problems. Like they're not, they do.
They're not perfect kids.
They are not perfect. And so our characters learn and then our kids learn from them. And so we find that, kids learn through stories. We like stories. And so it's a great way for kids to learn the social emotional skills that we all need.
Interesting. So Kelly, why grit, growth, and grace? What is so important about those three?
I think when Jamie came to be the principal at the school where I am, we both were looking at why kids were successful or not. And at the foundation of that is the old quote, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
And so whether you're a gifted child and you think that if you have to try, then you're not gifted in that area, or if you're a child at the other end of the spectrum where perhaps you have a learning disability and you don't think you can get any better at it, that's going to shape who you are. If you can change that mindset and decide with effort, I can change what I'm capable of doing. And we found that when we could convince kids that they were in control of growing their brain like a muscle, that it really was a game changer. But with that, we added grit. You've got to be able to stick to it. You can have the will to run a marathon, but unless you really go do the work, you're not really going to be a runner. You can walk the marathon, but you're not going to be able to do it. And one of the things we found through the research we did about businesses and things, and they're saying even when you have kids that have the growth mindset and have the grit and they come in and they can do the work in the workplace, sometimes their ability to work with a team is not very good. And they were looking to schools and saying, we really need you to fill these skills gaps here and give kids the tools to really listen and hear each other and work as a team.
You know, I love the idea about grit. I'm a big fan of Red Bull TV. I hate the Red Bull drink. I will never touch one of those, but I love their TV because I love all the adventure sports. And I was watching one over the weekend, and they were showing a guy who ended up in prison, sadly, but he started doing some things athletic-wise. And one of the guards told him, you have the capacity to suffer, to endure suffering, and yet you will persevere and keep on. And this guy, when he got out, became like a triathlete and, you know, ultramarathoner type guy. And it's all about that grit and the willingness to put your body through that and to not let your body tell you what to do, but let your mind tell you what to do. So teaching that to kids at an early age, I think is pretty awesome. What are the grade levels that you guys are focused on?
Right now, we're kinder through sixth grade. And so those are, and I want to say, too, about grit, it's your mind, but also using different resources. Sometimes you have to reach out to new and different resources. And we feel like we've seen a lot of people think that grit, too, is that perseverance piece. But sometimes it's just a little bit more. It's like going to someone and saying, hey, Kelly, I need help with this. And being, having that growth mindset that that's okay, that you're not going to feel bad that you have to ask for help.
Right.
Yeah. We're kinder through, to answer your question, kinder through fifth grade.
So
sixth grade.
What did CodeLaunch do for you specifically?
So we had 1 year of curriculum already written, and we've actually been speaking to a writer about writing our stories from kindergarten all the way up. We'd like for our characters to grow with our students. And so the whole school isn't doing the same story exactly, but is teaching the same idea. So if this month is about teaching mindfulness to students and how they can deal with stress, then everybody would be doing it kindergarten through sixth grade, but they would have their own story that really related to what goes on in that grade level. So kindergartners would have a different story on the same topic than fifth grade would because they experience different things in those grade levels. And we want our characters to be a kindergartner and a fifth grader in fifth grade. And so what we were using before was a platform that we could have a month of mindfulness, but we couldn't have 7 months of mindfulness to where teachers could just easily click on it and find it. And so what Code Authority, our CodeLaunch did for us, the improving team, was build us a platform where we can now go and a first grade teacher can click on the first grade button and all of her material is there. And she doesn't have to waste time digging through and saying, oh, but that's the second grade lesson, that's the third grade lesson. She can go straight to her things. It's just much more organized, much more user-friendly, and it really allows us to grow. We had after-school cares interested in our program, and so they've designed it where we can add after-school care in there too, and we were looking at a kindergarten through second grade after-school care program and then third through fifth, and just by changing the user or who can subscribe to that part, it takes them straight to that after-school care button, and they don't have to even see or they can't see all of the elementary school things. And so we have the capability to grow now.
So they have different levels of authority built into the system now. Yeah. So somebody has their login, and now they have authority to see whatever. So the principal may be able to see the whole thing, or whoever's responsible for it, but then different levels see only their own stuff. So it's more of a hierarchical delivery system.
Well, it allows us to have different, we can sell to different people. And so our market is elementary school, homeschool. We could do a faith-based, and all of those, we could direct them through this to just their curriculum, where when we were using our website before, we would have to have all of it on there. And if they got access to one thing, they got access to everything.
Yeah.
And it was just too hard to navigate. And we knew that we were kind of stuck until we really had our own platform and could grow with it.
Now, you guys had some success in actually rolling this out in a school system before CodeLaunch, yes?
Yes.
So
yes.
Tell us about how did you get that into that school system?
Well, I will say that our biggest success outside of where we work and live and
because you both are educators and you work in a school system in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Would be the after-school care program.
Okay.
So our first success outside of where we are would be the after-school care program that came to us, knowing what we were doing. They said, this is amazing. We want to pilot it. So they picked a couple sites throughout Texas, and they piloted in the after-school care program, and the kids connected with the characters. The site managers said, this is what we need. We need this for our kids to learn to have grit, have grace with one another. They said we have breathing videos in our lessons. Breathing.
Breathing.
Yes,
Okay.
so we teach mindfulness, and we have breathing videos. So when you can learn how to calm yourself. And so breathing is one of those techniques that does allow you just to calm and feel calm. And they said once they added that to their afternoons, you could feel a difference in the structure. When they added the lessons about being kind to one another, working through problems, things changed. And so one of our site directors said, yes, 3G Strong makes me a very happy site director.
Yeah, anything that calms the kids down. My sister and brother-in-law are both educators, but they're in high school. But they need some serious calming down at times.
Right. And to be able to socialize and, make new friends and work through problems and invite new friends. And this just helps kids.
One of the things that the after school care program did too is when they saw what we were doing, they were sponsoring TEPSA, the organization for principals in Texas. And they had a spot where they had to present something. And we had presented to them, and they were like, we learned so much from your presentation about what kids need and how to get our staff to relate so that things work well in a program. And they said, it taught our staff a lot, even about themselves. They developed a lot of self-awareness. So they asked us if we would go to Austin and represent them and fill their spot and speak to principals. And so we have some of those schools where they heard us speak and talk about, really it was just about social emotional learning, but we had our material there. And a lot of them came up afterwards and have asked us to put our program in their schools.
So what do you guys do now? Now that CodeLaunch is over, what are you going to do?
Sleep. I told Jason we need nap time built in, but
we're going to continue building our product. One of the other things that we do love about our product is that, within the lesson, it's very organized now for teachers. And so when they go into the lesson, it's just it's so much more user friendly. So we're going to continue working on that and developing that. And we want to reach as many kids as possible.
Okay.
I think to do that, though, we do need to look at just the right investor. We're really looking for someone who has the same heart that we do, that really wants to change the world by developing young children to grow, to be successful, and have the traits that they need. And so we're looking to build.
Looking to raise money.
Well, we've got to finish our website. That's going to be first and foremost. We've got to get it. We want to build the rest of our curriculum and get it out to as many people as we can.
Kelly and I spent a whole year writing the initial story before we even developed the lesson. So there's a story that's woven throughout all the lessons. That's why kids really connect with the characters, because we can really dive deep into the characters. One of the after-school program site managers, she said, wow, these characters are really well developed. I mean, they really have their own unique personality, each one. And so we want a story for every single grade.
We would also be willing. Somebody suggested to us, it was actually one of our classes that we got through CodeLaunch, said you really need to look at people who want to give to your program and sponsor a school. And so if there are people out there that want to sponsor a school,
Brilliant.
We would love to work with that school and that person to see what we can do to really get it in as many schools as we can. Right now, we're still in the startup stage. And so until we finish our site, we're going to have to start school with our old platform. But hopefully, if we get the right investors or get people that want to go ahead and donate, we can put that money towards building the platform and get it out there soon.
So your lease is going to expire in the future, and you're trying to figure out how soon should I start working on that? Is it 6 months or a year or 2 years before my lease expiration? Well, there isn't an exact date. This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and my clients always meet with me about 2 years before their expiration date, and we create a strategy. And then we review that strategy again a year later. And so we're always working toward what's right for them, not what they think might be an arbitrary date by which they need to figure this out. The keys in determining how much time you need are whether or not you're going to move, whether or not you need to expand, will there need to be construction on wherever you're going to go to, and all those things take more time. So do a strategy meeting a couple years out with your advisor, and that'll make things a lot more clear. For more information, please go to texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. Welcome back to the Next Level Show. Bob Gibbons here. We're talking to Jason W. Taylor of CodeLaunch and Code Authority and his brainchild of CodeLaunch helping startups do the coding. And so we just talked to 3G Strong, the winners of this year's CodeLaunch, and we're now talking to a couple of the other finalists. So first we're going to talk to Michael Bates of MeU Swipe. And his partner, co-founder Rama Raju had to leave, unfortunately, but glad to have you with us, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
So MeU Swipe, it's M-E-U Swipe. What in the world? That name is not exactly obvious to me as to what you do.
Sure. It's me and it's you.
Oh.
So we're connecting.
All right. Well, thanks for clearing that up. On to the next guy. So go tell me more, please.
Yeah. I mean, MeU Swipe, I was overseas for the last 12 years. I was based in China. And this is where the product kind of took shape, took form. And, everything's a people business. And there's always a problem trying to find contacts. And so this application is to enable you to find your contacts, connect very quickly on the onset of meeting someone. That would tie into a CRM, customer relationship management system. And then on the end is to meet the other person again very easily instead of digging through business cards. And
so your app is a way to organize my contacts in a digital format and I've got CRM that does that. So why do I need MeU Swipe?
So we integrate into existing CRM systems.
Yeah.
The basic principle up front is to easily connect up front with one touch point, one swipe.
So if I'm like at a trade show and I meet somebody I want to actually have their contact information, it allows me and that person to exchange information immediately right there?
Immediately, 1 second. If you were to change jobs in the future, you update your information in your phone, I will get the updates so we can always stay in touch forever. I have boxes full of business cards, probably 5,000 business cards. I guarantee today, not one of those probably actually works, right?
Yeah, I don't keep business cards anymore. In fact, the only business cards I keep are the ones that I haven't decided yet whether or not they're worthy of going into my electronic CRM. And eventually I'll sit down and I'll have a whole stack of them. I'll go through them and I throw 90% of them away because I just, don't need to know those people anymore. Never really knew them. I just grabbed their card at something or they gave it to me. So I love the idea, though, about the automatic updating. That is my responsibility to update my information, and then that pushes that out to everybody else that I'm connected with. But that's only going to be for people I'm connected with on your platform, correct?
Yeah, you would have the application, MeU, in your phone. And you would open that up, and then you would swipe over your contact details to the other person that also has MeU Swipe on their phone. Okay.
So everybody that I've ever known needs to have MeU Swipe for them all to get my updated information.
Correct. This will happen soon.
That's a daunting task. So tell me how that's going to happen.
The go-to-market strategy really is we want this to be on every phone in the world, every country. And the onset of going to a trade show, if you look at trade shows such as CPHI, a pharmaceutical trade show, or the Big Five you might be aware of in Dubai, there's about 70,000 to 100,000 people that attend that over a couple of days.
Wow.
So you can register when you arrive, get your name tag, and then when you're meeting with all the exhibitors and everyone else that you're partnering with, you just swipe over your contact details and you can be in touch with them forever. And this would then, if it's a business contact, it would go into your business's CRM system. Mm-hmm. Now management, the leadership of the company actually knows who their customers are.
So that sounds good in some ways, and it sounds really scary in other ways. I mean, if I go to a trade show, the last thing I want is for everybody in that room to have my contact information because now they're all going to be hitting on me. So trying to sell me something, right? So I mean, like whenever I'm walking through a trade show and they have the little bowl where you have to throw your business card and they're giving away something, I'm really reluctant to throw my business card in there because, I'm thinking, oh crap, now they're going to be calling me and trying to set up just a coffee and, and all that kind of thing. So will your system have a way for me to sort of opt out or limit who actually gets to see it?
So the great thing that we use in terms of our technology, we're not using Bluetooth, cell phone towers, QR codes, or NFC. We are proximity based, so we're creating an intimate connection. We would have to be, a couple feet within each other.
Okay.
So anybody outside that circle would not be able to connect.
So it's
with
not
you.
like when I go to that 70,000 person conference that I automatically get downloaded all those.
It's the person right in front of you
I got you.
that you actually want to connect with.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the key, because
That's
you don't
the
want to
key.
connect with everybody. In fact, I know somebody who told me one time, when you go to a conference or a networking thing, don't take business cards. Because that way when somebody says, hey, can I have your business card? You can just say, I'm sorry, I don't have any. I'm out of them, but give me yours. And then you can just throw it
Right.
away if you don't want to talk to them again, or you can connect with them if you do.
So you bring up a good point with the whole throwing the contacts away. So we're cleaning up dirty data for companies. But the other thing is just the environmental aspect of this.
Yeah.
You said you throw 90% of your business cards away.
Yeah.
So we're cutting down almost the size of Manhattan every year to print about 100 billion business cards in the world.
Wow.
So if everyone's throwing 80 to 90% of those business cards away, why are we cutting down so many trees, wasting water, wasting chemicals? And then the data doesn't even work a year later, right? Because
Yeah.
you changed your phone number.
Interesting. So CodeLaunch was a big opportunity. What did they
It's
do for
awesome.
you?
Yeah, it was an awesome experience to work with CodeLaunch. We worked with Code Authority for the development team. We had 5 full stack developers working with us. It was very challenging. We worked very hard for 3 days. Awesome team. We ended up creating a great minimally viable product for the demo that we did at CodeLaunch. So I couldn't be more proud of Code Authority, Jason, and the whole team. It was awesome.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, what he is not telling you is that the way this happens between two devices in close proximity
Uh-huh.
is entirely a new invention.
Oh,
It is
Really?
a patentable, maybe already provisionally patented, new thing. So we had to tackle something that nobody has ever tackled before.
amazing. Did you make them sign an NDA before you gave them that info?
Absolutely. But I trust Jason and their team.
As you should.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So next, what's next? I mean, obviously building more onto it, but your go-to-market strategy. Who do you contact first to make this thing happen?
Yeah, I mean, our first step is actually to look for more investors. We haven't looked in the past, so we are looking for our first seed round. That is going to go for further development of the application, something that will be launched in Google App Store or the
Gotcha.
Apple App Store. And then also key hires, and then obviously the go-to-market strategy is very important, and we want to move fast. So we need the funds to be able to do that.
I would think you'd have to be this would have to be something that really goes fast because, I mean, you have some technology that is patentable, but I got to believe these big CRM firms, Salesforce and all the others, are going to come up with something that's similar to compete with it.
So it's a great comment. I think people have been trying to solve for this issue exactly for about 15 years, and no one's done a very good job. We're not really solving this problem on the technology side. We're solving for the user experience.
Yeah,
So if it's a great user experience, people will use it.
cool.
So we're not just a B2B company, but we're also a B2C company.
Gotcha.
So if you just want to swipe over your phone number instead of handing your phone to your friend and say, hey, can you type in this?
Yes.
And then type in the name. There's like 20 touch points. Instead, you can just swipe over your phone number. And
That'd be
that's
way
done.
easier. Well, Michael, thank you for tackling this problem. I will be a user. I guarantee that.
Love it. Thank you.
Well, let's move on to Materio. So Ricardo Carmona,
Hello.
he has the distinction of being the guy that came the farthest, all the way from Portugal, for CodeLaunch. That is awesome. How did you find out about CodeLaunch?
Well, first, thank you all for this invitation. It's amazing to be here. And I heard about CodeLaunch at my first trip to the United States 2 months ago on the event for startups in New Orleans, where somebody told me that, at your level of development of the company, you should apply to CodeLaunch. And
Okay.
started like that.
Nice.
So when I arrived to Portugal, I Googled for CodeLaunch. I've reading some reviews, so this is it. I will do it.
So tell us about Materio. What exactly does Materio do? What's its intent?
Well, Materio, it started in 2014 as a consultant engineering company because we had previous experience building bridges, designing bridges, researching and at this technology. So we started as a consultant company. And in 2016, we started an incubation at the European Space Agency Business Incubation Center. This was a
Wow.
change in our mindset.
That sounds impressive.
Yeah. At that moment, we started to understand that we could bring lots of technology to solve lots of problems on our bridges, on our critical infrastructures. Because like in aerospace, like in aeroplanes, critical components cannot fail on bridges. Because when they fail, people die, you have lots of problems. And we started to build our idea from the scratch since that moment. We have the knowledge about bridge designing and structural consultancy and structural analysis. And we had the opportunity to change information and to receive lots of feedback about how to input more technology in this field. So from that moment, we started to be inspired by space and aviation maintenance practices and to bring the same predictability that those sectors have into the bridge and especially overpasses.
Oh yeah. So bridges and is there a difference between an overpass and a bridge?
Yeah, normally this was a good feedback that I received yesterday because when I talk here about bridges, normally you think about the greatest bridges that across rivers.
Yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, whatever.
But the problems, they are on the overpasses. You have here thousands and thousands of overpasses with problems. And normally the overpasses are the smallest bridges, the ones that we see a lot over our roads and highways. And
these are the ones that go over another road, probably.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there because we're going to have to take another quick break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Next Level Show. We are talking to the finalists and winners of CodeLaunch. So we've talked to 3G Strong. We've talked to no, we haven't yet. We're going to get to that. We've talked to Miu Swipe. We're currently talking to Materio. And so Ricardo Carmona came all the way from Portugal for this competition. So we were talking about what you guys are doing. And so you're really trying to create predictability to bridge and overpass maintenance and failures, trying to help people know, or people, I say, municipalities, whoever owns that bridge, let them know when they should be maintaining it and or replacing them.
Exactly.
So you're trying to avoid the much bigger cost of a full replacement and of course, the loss of life and property damage that occurs when one fails.
Exactly, because this is something that we all know in this sector, that the late repairs, they cost 5 times more, around that, sometimes much more than that, than early stage repair. So when you detect damage on an early stage of development, the costs of the repair, it's much, much lower than when you detect by a visual inspection. Because when you see it, the problem is already there for a long time. And this is what we want to bring predictability to this sector, because this is possible. We don't want to put lots of sensors on the bridge. We don't have sensors. We are a data science company, so we analyze the data. Because you can have hundreds of sensors on the bridge, but if you cannot understand what they are telling to you,
right,
they don't.
So what kind of science? I mean, what kind of inputs do you put into this system to monitor so that you can predict when things are needed?
Yeah, we use a technology that is known like digital twin technology. So we simulate
digital what?
Digital twin.
Digital twin.
So, yes, we create a twin, a numerical model twin of the bridge.
Oh, I see.
So we
you replicate it in an electronic environment. What's really there?
We simulate like the finite element model, and we do all the analysis, we do all the simulations to understand what is the behavior or what is the expected behavior before, for example, an extreme event like a tornado, like a seismic effect, like a huge load, an accident, for example. And with this, we will be able to understand what is the expected reaction of the bridge, of the real bridge.
Gotcha.
For that, of course, we need some kind of sensors, but we are trying to reduce the number of sensors and put more intelligence on the system. With this, we will be able to reduce the costs, and with lower costs, the municipalities, the Department of Transportation, the bridge owners, they will have more the readiness and the willingness to apply such technology will be much better, because in other way it's always be expensive.
Yeah, I would think so. So how do you, what's the sales proposal? I mean, if they can go out and hire a bridge consultant already who's going to evaluate it, an engineer, and tell them what the current situation is and what they ought to be doing, what is it that you're bringing to the table that's different from doing that?
Yeah, what we are bringing, it's real-time analysis and following real-time performance or following the performance in real time. So we will be able to provide information for the owner, for the bridge designer. This could help also the bridge designer, because he will be able to know what are the detail of the bridge that is causing more damage, or who are having fastest degradation, for example, so they could improve the next designs.
But how do you do that without sensors? I mean,
We
what's
always-
what's the real time aspect of it if there's not sensors? I guess I'm not real clear that I understand that.
Oh yeah, we need some. We always need some sensors. A few of
Okay.
them, like
But they're not all over the place.
accelerometers, like displacement sensors. We use also the information from the atmospheric information, like the traffic information. All of that information will feed our algorithms and will help us to understand what are the path and the evolution of degradation that is happening on the bridge. If
Gotcha.
it's higher or lower than the expected on the project, because it's always different.
So what's the scale of this? How many bridges are we talking about?
Millions of them, because just in the US, you have more than 600,000 bridges. We have almost 500,000 in Europe. And I'm not counting with South America, with Canada, with Asia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of bridges.
That's giant.
And the biggest part of them are overpasses.
Yeah.
And overpasses is the poor parent of the bridges, like we used to say in Portugal, because you don't have lots of budget to understand what is happening on the overpass. There are
Right.
so many of them, and we want to
Interesting.
bring the same level of high technology that the biggest bridges in the world have into these smallest bridges
Yeah.
with lower costs.
Okay.
Because it's possible. We want to reduce the cost of the hardware and put intelligent on that.
Well, Ricardo, thanks for coming so far to solve such
Thank
a
you very
giant
much.
problem. That's really awesome. All right, so our last finalist that we're going to talk to is Prince, and Prince is Prince Nalamoth. I'm going to screw it up. I told you I would. You told me I did it right earlier, but of course on the air I'm not going to do it right. Nalamothalula. No, that's not right. How do I say it?
Nalamotala.
Nalamotala.
Yeah.
All right, close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
As close as we're going to get.
Yeah.
So Prince is a 9-year-old student who has a company called Happy Family. So what is Happy Family?
Happy Family is an app to connect the family members in a fun way, because right now technology is ruling the world and there's no time for family members to come together, and stress and anxiety problems are leading to unhappy marriages and unhappy kids. So I wanted to solve the problem to bring family members together, because family members are like spending more time on technology than they are spending with their family members. So I wanted to bring the family members together. So the first Happy Family started off as a board game that I created with great family wellness activities to increase the family bonding and a healthy lifestyle. And then I wanted to play the board game with my grandparents, but they live in India. So then I created the Happy Family online game so that I could play with them. And it has audio support included so that our blind friends can play as well. And then finally, I am working on the Happy Family app, which I went to CodeLaunch for, and I was one of the 5 finalists in the youth category. So then so right now we have a working prototype, but we're looking to make it a real app and put it into the market.
Interesting. So the thing that I found most interesting about what you're talking about doing, and I applaud the idea of finding ways to get families together, to actually have them talking to each other face to face, et cetera. The thing that was interesting to me is that you're using technology to overcome technology.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit counterintuitive, yes?
Yes.
But you got to work with the tools we have, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And you're not going to get these
No.
electronics out of people's hands.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
So you're trying to change their behavior and how they use
Yes.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And also the board game was my the first I created the board game the board game has, like, how you play is it's just like any other board game. You just roll the dice, and that's how many squares you move. And each square has a color on the outside, or like there's like different squares, and in between those squares it shows the number of points you get. And then those squares, they have different colors on the outside, and those colors, there's 4 colors: green, yellow, blue, and red. So the outside have colors. So based on the color square you land on, that's the color task card you take. And some of the task cards are like family group hugs, take a walk to the park with their family, switch off gadgets for one evening. So that's if you play the board game.
So how do you know? I mean, with all due respect, you're a 9-year-old kid. How do you know what is necessary to create good relationships among families and adults even?
So what we did is when we first created the board game, it didn't really have points and some things that were kind of necessary that we didn't really think about. But then we showed it to some fitness coaches, and then we just showed it to some people in our community in general.
Okay.
And then we asked for some feedback, and then from there we just improvised a lot.
Well, that's smart. I mean, you need to show it to other people.
We asked them, do you know anything or different activities that you might think would be useful for you and for people?
Have you shown it to other kids and gotten their feedback too?
Yeah, like the problem was, I said the problem in the beginning, but the reason I created the Happy Family was one day when I was coming home from school, about 2-3 years ago, I saw my friend sitting on a bench, and he was like really sad. So I walked over to him and asked him what was wrong. And he said that he didn't have enough time to spend with his family members and friends because they're too busy with their cell phones and gadgets. So then I said, don't worry, I can help you. He said, you're only 6 years old, because that was about 3 years ago, and right now I'm 9. So then he said, you're only 6 years old. How can you help me solve such a big problem? Then I said, don't worry, I got this. And then I went home, and that's when I started studying the problem, and I started brainstorming, and I came, and then I just shorted it down until I found the final decision was Happy Family. And then that's when I created the board game. But then I thought that board game, it wouldn't probably spread around that much. And also people that are far away from each other, they can play with the online game. And then finally I wanted to make the Happy Family app.
And have you taken what you've done so far and shown it to your friend who was sad?
Yeah.
What does he think?
I let him have the board game, actually, the model
That's nice.
that I created. And then I created another model that I brought to CodeLaunch, actually, but I didn't get to show it in my pitch. But it was at my booth.
Okay. So what are you doing next? I mean, how do you have time to do this while you're going to school and all? So how do you turn this into something that you can actually sell to other people?
Well, right now we're looking for some investors so that we can make, since we only have a working prototype and we don't have the app in the market, and we don't have the online game or the board game in the market yet. Right. So we need some investors to take it to the next level.
Gotcha.
But I was thinking that first, if we get our app done or any part of it done, I was thinking of just doing a soft launch for Frisco or the community or even the whole Texas first. And then based on how many downloads or something like that we get, we were thinking of doing just America. And then based on that, we're thinking of doing global.
Yeah, you got to start slow and build, right, and get that validation. Well, Prince, thanks for being here. All of you, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys did a great job, and hope to see you next year. Ladies, you're going to be on the stage, so we'll see you then. Listeners, you know where to go, thenextlevelshow.com. See you next week with another great guest.